Welcome to the Blue Dot, Northern Kentucky's premier political podcast, brought to you by the Kenton County Democratic Executive Committee. Welcome back to the Blue Dot podcast, where we like to talk about the kitchen table topics affecting those in the Bluegrass and beyond. And today we're going way beyond the Bluegrass, down through Tennessee, all the way to Alabama.
Yeah, that's right, Natalie. Today, we're joined by a trailblazing candidate for the U.S. Senate from Alabama, entrepreneur, activist, and community leader, Dakari Larriett. Dakari, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian and Natalie. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. Well, let's start out with your story. So I know you've lived in several states, you've lived abroad, but Alabama is home. So tell us a little bit about what shaped your decision to run for Senate. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
Well, I'm a born and raised Alabamian, so Birmingham is home for me. And I grew up here, but my dad was in the Army, and we traveled all around the world. And after his years of service, including Germany, California, Oklahoma, Washington State, we ultimately ended up back home in Birmingham. And I excelled in school here, but I could not find work when I graduated. And that sent me to New York City. And I built a career supply chain there, also building a career in public service. So volunteering and joining boards in harm reduction, as well as supporting the LGBT community and working to eradicate homelessness in the Bronx. So that's really where I found my joy, and moved back to Birmingham, Alabama in the midst of the pandemic. And again, got into community work and started driving for Meals on Wheels, joined the board of my alma mater, the University of Alabama, and again, fighting for equal access to education. So that's my background, my professional background. But really, the spark is the false arrest that happened to me last year when I was driving through the state of Michigan. That's what really told me it was time to run.
I was interested if you could just give us a real quick background on that. I know there's a lot to it. It's a complex story, but just for our viewers and listeners, just to kind of understand how that was an impetus for your run, like the key parts of that, which really drove you to this decision.
Yeah, so I was driving through the state April of last year, and I was apprehended by the Michigan State Police, falsely arrested, tortured. It was just a horrific night of racism and homophobia, and ultimately was forced to use the restroom publicly in the jailhouse, told not to flush, which became the title of my book. And I've been fighting for justice from that day for a year and a half now. And it's really informed a lot of the policies that I'm focused on, which are around police accountability and transparency. And one of my signature pieces of legislation is the Motorist Bill of Rights, which really defines our interactions with the police, ensures that we're treated fairly, and that this doesn't happen to anyone else. And I just knew I had to run to change the laws, to shake things up so that we're protected.
Yeah, I think, that kind of experience is going to really resonate with a lot of voters, because many of your potential constituents probably have had that experience or have had family or friends who have. So I know you've been really hyper-focused on finding ways to connect with voters, devoting lots of hours each day to making calls directly to those throughout the state. And your campaign touches on the policing Bill of Rights type of thing that you talked about, also healthcare, education, justice, and more. So when you make these connections, what are you discussing as your top priorities besides what you just previously mentioned?
We actually went out and polled Alabamians and asked them what really mattered to them. Now, this first poll was really more about primary voters, so more left-leaning voters. And I'd say the first thing that came to mind was the democracy. We've got to preserve our democracy. You can't really do anything, right? You can't have a fruitful debate about any topic. We have no democracy. But once we get past that, unsurprisingly, it is kitchen table. It's education, healthcare, and the economy. So we are building out those very detailed proposals so that we have a policy that can bring the state together next year in November.
It kind of sounds a little bit like what we're hearing in Kentucky. We're a red state. So this area of the country can really be kind of a tough place. Luckily in Kentucky, we have a really popular Democratic governor with Andy Beshear. You have a little bit of a different situation down there with Governor Kay Ivey. And so I think reaching out to those people, being able to break through those independents and moderates is going to be really important. And like you said, it's kind of the same things we're hearing here. It's education, it's healthcare, it's really those kitchen table topics that are really what's important to people.
Oh, it's so true. And, there's so many other sexy topics we can jump in on, but it always seems to come back to that when we go through town halls because the state has not been investing in education for so long. We're starting to see the repercussions in crime, in our health outcomes, because obviously a healthier population has better uh, outcomes throughout all types of their aspects of their life. So it's been really, really interesting to speak to people up and down the state.
Yeah, I've heard you speak about the importance of your faith, and you do a lot of community service, as you mentioned. I checked your blog on your website, where I born Catholic, raised Jehovah's Witness, and now a practicing United Methodist, and I was like, okay, that's that's quite a journey. Again, I
Happy to
think
wear
well,
ends either. So
well, yeah. I mean, it sounds to me like you're a lifelong sojourner for sure. So I think that also is going to allow you to really directly affect and understand, many of the voters out there because of your widespread experience in that end. But I mean, can you speak to your faith journey and your faith in general and your spirituality and how that guides your leadership?
yeah, I think it really boils down to empathy and understanding the journey that people are on. So as I said, baptized Catholic, raised as Jehovah's Witness, like super conservative, particularly given where I was born. So I get that some people are still on a journey to acceptance. And really, the reason I left the Jehovah's Witnesses was because I was gay, and that religion does not accept any diversity in that regard. So I know how to talk to people, I know how to use scripture as well. And, I've said this many times before, we got to be patient with people. It took many years for my parents to accept who I was, and we can't expect everybody to go from 0 to 100 overnight. That's one of the big things. And I guess when I think about my opponent, we are going to go back to faith when we talk about some of the positions he takes and the actions he takes that alienate members of our community, like the trans community. That is not at all in line with the principles that most Alabamians live by.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that if people hear that story and that empathy, and when you talk about how policy really affects people and you get down to that level, then the policies make a lot more sense.
Right.
When you kind of take out the noise and take out the division of it and get down to what it means to people, I just think that really makes people understand what's important and why fighting against some of these really cruel policies are so important.
Yes, I think there's an emotional aspect to it that we're going to try to hit. And then the dollars and cents. Like some people are just very black and white. So we'll talk about, for example, the immigration policy and how we can, if we actually get some legislation done, we can have a policy that works for all of us, people who are seeking a better life, and then those of us who actually want, produce and we want our businesses to run here in the state.
And you being an entrepreneur, I'm assuming that all of that is shaping your economic vision as well of policy, again, that's going to help not only maybe small businesses, but the people who consume the products from those.
Yes, and I'm also an MBA. So I graduated from NYU and earned my MBA there. And the interesting thing about my business, I started in 2012. From day one, I wanted everything to be made in USA. One, from a quality standpoint, and then two, responsiveness. And that's why we did so well during COVID because our competitors were importing all these different things. They had very long lead times, and we were right here ready to go. So we actually gained share during COVID. But I know a lot of folks are really suffering when it comes to tariffs and these complicated supply chains now. I've heard about people getting excessive charges when, something came in, it was a very nominal fee that they paid, and now it's astronomical and they're leaving the goods on the port. So we have some real challenges in that area.
Yeah, I think going back again to what are what are voters really concerned with? And it's the classic, it's the economy, stupid. I mean, you just can't forget that, and all the distractions and all the wild stuff that's going on with the current administration in our, political system today. If you can just keep drawing everybody back to the economy and, how far is your paycheck going and things like that. I mean, that's going to cut through a lot of this and really speak to people. And gain some voter share. I hope. I think that's what we need to do. Just keep hammering on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm not really a grocery store guy. I kind of do Instacart to get everything delivered to me. And I did an experiment. Stay with me. I did an experiment. I
Mm-hmm.
looked at my cart because you can look at your old orders from a
Right.
couple years ago, right? And now, astronomically different. Like just looking at my order for, 10 items was $50 and now
Yeah.
it's 75. Like that's real money that's coming out of people's pockets and they don't have it because we know the salary increases are not at all keeping pace with the growth and cost.
No. That's interesting you did that because I've often thought, man, I wish I had kind of been tracking this because,
Yeah.
when somebody says, oh, prices are about the same, or they say, oh, they're way up or way down, I don't have that actual hard data of my lived experience economically to be able to validate that. So that's really interesting. I know a lot of people I speak with are just saying, they're really struggling just making ends meet. My kids, are of the age where there's a lot of paycheck to paycheck kind of living going on, and it's hard for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the son of an Army veteran.
Yes.
Did you ever consider military service, and does your father's military service shape your view of policy regarding the military and, of course, our veterans in the current situation and condition with veterans, support of our veterans today?
I never thought that serving directly was for me, but I wanted to serve my community and I wanted to serve my country. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why I volunteered so much.
Mm.
But I think the principles are something that I carry with me. And I talk about it in my book quite a bit too, is the discipline. And one of my kind of childhood memories is my dad always polishing his boots and how we present ourselves, how we show up in the world, that stays with me quite a bit. And when I think about military policy, it's about taking care of our veterans. It is traumatic work. So many of them leave the service with mental health issues and challenges and all types of health issues. Thinking back to Vietnam and exposure, like those people are still around. So,
Yep.
my biggest takeaway is we've got to support them. That is a non negotiable. VA benefits cannot at all be lessened from when they are. In fact, we should be looking at ways to build more competency in mental health. I think that will solve a lot of issues. And then certainly the homelessness challenges that they face, we've got to really stare that down and fix it.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's funny that you say that about being a child of someone in the service. I am not, but my partner's father is a Korean vet. And I could tell you something, she can fold clothes like a Marine, man. Like it is like, and like mine are not. So it's like you can clearly tell who grew up with a
Oh,
veteran in their family. So,
okay. I took
um,
that away too. I actually have a professional folding device for all of my, like, it looks like the Gap
Man.
store in my closet. Yeah. So I guess
yep.
I did take a lot away from
Wow.
dad.
I mean, it is perfect.
All right. So you're concerned with how you present yourself even in your closet.
Yes.
That's intense, man.
Well, speaking of that, I've doing research and looking on all of your social media, and you're doing a lot. You are out there, you're campaigning, you're talking to the people. It's really pretty refreshing to see you are working hard. I think you're gonna be in a primary.
Yes.
So what sets you apart from the other ones? What sets you apart from your primary opponents?
I always tell the voters, look at what people have done and what they are doing. And what I bring to the table is 20 years of doing the work. So when you think about the role of the senator, for me, it's obviously writing the laws and oversight. And that's what I've done in my board work for the last 20 years. Creating the policy, guiding the organization, overseeing an executive, which we're not seeing, frankly, right now from our own Congress. And I tell a story in my book, Don't Flush. about my time at Bronx Community Pride Center when I, as a young MBA and board member, discovered fraud happening within the organization. And I immediately, as the youngest board member, took control of the situation and took the information to New York City because we were the recipient of state, city, and federal funds. And ultimately, that executive director went to jail, and our organization suffered from that. But it was the right thing to do, and we had to do it quickly to protect the public's funds and our constituents and those who depended upon the organization. So that's the track record that I'm running on. And what am I doing today? So we recently had a police homicide just outside of my area here in Birmingham, just a few miles away. And I sprung into action. I was the only elected or candidate actively participating besides one other individual who's running for city council. And we were there supporting the family, protesting. And then I took it the next step forward. I wrote the legislation, and that became op-eds that got picked up in newspapers. So that's how you do it, supporting the community and then creating the laws to protect them and then oversight. So I've been doing it.
Well, I just sit here thinking, Dakari, you're a gay, black, former Jehovah's Witness running for a Democratic Senate seat in Alabama, and I'm sure you've had to address this throughout your life. I think, I would be interested in how you address that and how you just basically take that issue off the table or turn it to an advantage, which I believe it is. Again, another lived experience that I think can be an advantage. So I would just like to hear you speak to that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's a good question. When we started the campaign, the team wanted to really establish me. Just who am I? What have I done? That 20 years of experience in public
Right.
service, the business acumen, the MBA. And we did
Right.
that, and we got a great deal of media around that. And then I would say almost 3 weeks ago, someone on the team said, it's time. And we want to acknowledge a critical part of you. One of 1,000 interesting things about me that I'm gay. And I was apprehensive for about a day. And then I said, let's just do it. And we sent out kind of my coming out text message. And it was our biggest fundraising day ever.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We raised
Fantastic.
$5,500 off of one text message, and it's still going. That was just day one. So it's still trickling in from that one message 2 weeks ago. So we're not going to make everyone happy, but the idea and strategy is own what people are going to ultimately attack and lead with it. Just we've done with the false arrests. Like, people are going to slice and dice that 1 hour video and say, oh, he looks like he's drunk here. Well, we know that was not the case. It was a false arrest. The judge said it himself. And the only reason we haven't moved forward is because of qualified immunity, which we're appealing. So we tried to really think about what are our key quote unquote weaknesses and turn them into strengths, because we're galvanizing and getting our community excited. And when I think about Alabama and Birmingham and really across the nation, turnout is so low. How do we get people excited? Folks are going to see themselves in me in a way they've never seen a candidate, before here in Alabama.
Yeah, that's great. Totally agree with that.
I love it. Like you said, it's a piece of you, and you're obviously an amazing person, and it's so great to see the honesty there.
It kind of makes me think of, Kamala Harris when she ran. There were commentary about, you notice that she never mentioned she was black or a woman, because she wanted to kind of take those, I guess, in my opinion, take it off the table, because she didn't want people to look at that either as a negative or the positive, the reason why. She wanted to be her agenda, me as a person, me as a leader.
Yeah.
But maybe, in retrospect, maybe that could have been turned to an advantage and brought other people out, such as, your coming out text did. Yeah, you reach people the other way otherwise might not have reached, because they can relate to that directly.
And it's a year plus out. So like most campaigns, we move to the middle and kind of moderate a bit as we get closer to November. But the idea was like, let's shake things up a little bit. And some of the titles, I'm sure you've seen them, are a little cheeky. Like, it's like, how could this possibly be a legitimate or serious candidate? And I think the Advocate did a really great job, because the title was so like crazy incendiary. But then when you read it, it was one of the most beautiful, comprehensive stories about me I've ever seen.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. That's a great story. I love it.
Well, we also like to, get to know our guest a little bit more by doing a quick lightning round. Quick 5 questions if you're up for that.
Yes, I am.
All right. I love it when
Glad
our
to.
guests are like, yeah, I'll play along. All righty. So this one's probably the hardest one. If
Okay.
you could instantly fix one issue in Alabama, what would it be?
Because there's only one, it has to be poverty, because
Uh,
that affects so many different things, healthcare, education, etc. So we've not made those front end investments. So if I could just fix that one thing, that would be it. Yeah.
that's because there's so much anchored in that.
Out of 5 Alabamians rely upon Medicare,
Wow.
Medicaid. Yep.
And with the cuts that are coming, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, very similar to Kentucky. So we feel you. Yeah.
Yeah. The second one's a little more fun. On the flip side of that, tell me one thing that you absolutely love about Alabama.
The food is just phenomenal. And we have 67 counties. So I'm trying to eat the signature dish everywhere I go. So when I'm down in Mobile, is shrimp and grits is absolutely amazing. So yeah, the food.
And I understand you're a college football fan.
Yes.
Is that correct? And I had to take UAB out of this, but then this may be probably the most controversial question you'll ever be asked. Is it the Crimson Tide or the Auburn Tigers?
Of course, the Crimson Tide. I'm a graduate of Alabama, so of course they're the best.
All right. And what one word would your friends use to describe you?
Ooh,
Maybe that was harder than the football.
Brooding or serious. I'm very introspective. So introspective.
I like that.
There we go.
I can see that. I see that. And the last one, and this can also be pretty controversial, and I think I know what you're going to say, but you had a pet care business, so I have to ask, cats or dogs?
Oh, absolutely dogs. I'm a dog
I
guy.
knew it.
So I
won't let my cat know. She's sitting right over there, so I'm not.
So
turn the volume down.
Trying to get the dog dad tag here in Alabama. Somebody got it before me. So yeah.
Oh. Well, thank you for playing along.
Of course.
Well, yeah, Dakari, we really appreciate you joining us and talking a little bit about your candidacy and, some of your goals and aspirations and what you're trying to achieve there and how you, plan to go about it. It's sounds like a real challenge, but I think you've got a real good opportunity down there. We're really excited about it.
No, thank you. Yeah, we're building momentum. So internal polls show us leading on the Democratic ticket. So really exciting time down here in Alabama.
Awesome. And how can folks hear about, get involved or hear more about your campaign?
Check us out at DakariLariat.com, and that links you to social media, and all of our media mentions and stories and videos are all right there, DakariLariat.com.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dakari.
I had a great time. Thank you.
All right. Best of luck to you.
All right.
So
bye-bye.
Bye. Well, that's it for this podcast. Thank you for joining. We're looking forward to next week's full episode where we will be talking to Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman about all things Kentucky and a focus on pre-K for all. And don't forget, you can join the conversation at our Facebook and Instagram pages or at bluedotpodcast.com. And if you like listening to the podcast, consider donating to help fund it, which you can do by clicking on the donate link at bluedotpodcast.com. And until next time, stay curious, keep the facts in focus, and never stop fighting for what matters. Peace out, everybody.